Alright guys, today we're comparing the G8X to the Samsung Galaxy S10 here. So let's find out which one is going to be better for you here. Both of these phones actually retail for around the same price point, around that $200 price point, and I'll have those links down below for you guys. So let's go ahead and get into just the hardware with both phones here. So pretty similar hardware. You do have glass and metal design on both of these phones. On the S10, power button, volume rockers, Bixby button. Down below we have our headphone jack, USB-C, stereo speakers on here. And on the G8X, again, same setup pretty much. Power button, volume rockers, Google Assistant button is on here actually. And then we have our headphone jack, but this headphone jack has the quad DAC, USB Type-C, and you also have stereo speakers. And just to do a little size comparison here, G8X is definitely taller and a little bit thicker and a little bit heavier as well. Alright, so let's talk about the displays on both phones. So on the G8X you have a OLED HDR10 display at 6.4 inches. It's 1080p 403 for the PPI. You have a little wider drop notch up front as well. The S10 actually has a dynamic AMOLED display, HDR10 Plus, and at 6.1 inches, so it's slightly smaller than the G8X as well. It's a 1440p display with 550 for the PPI, so it has a, just a crazy high resolution here. If you want a super sharp resolution, I would go with the G8 instead of the G8X. With the G8, you do get that 2K display like on the S10. So the S10 is overall, it's more colorful, it's a brighter display as well, and overall it's just overall sharper display. And I do prefer the punch hole over the notch here. But one of the advantages that you have with the G8X display is that you can actually attach a dual screen case to the G8X, and you can actually have two displays on the G8X, which I think is really cool. It is going to cost you like an extra $100, but that is definitely something to take into consideration. But the displays by themselves, I would give it to the S10 here. Alright, so you do have the Snapdragon 855 on both of these devices, and you also have 8 gigs of RAM on the S10 and 6 gigs of RAM on the G8X. They both have 128 gigs of internal storage, and they also both have SD card support. So let's go ahead and get a quick speed test, see what results we get here. Looks like the S10 or the G8X got in there by a pretty good amount of time there. Pretty much a tie there. S10, a little bit of back and forth here. G8X, you can see even though the G8X is still on Android 10, it's pretty much able to keep up and beat the S10 in a lot. Yeah, so it's kind of going back and forth, but the G8X is able to keep up with the S10, even being, an Android 10 here. Screen case, because there are games that are compatible with the dual screen case that will sort of enhance the gaming experience, which, you don't have that option on the S10. But to just show you these settings here, on the G8, it's the same exact settings. So the same exact settings you'll see on the S10. So you have extreme all the way up to HDR, and you have the option for Ultra HD, and that is on both of these devices. So you do have excellent PUBG settings for both, especially at a $200 price point. So you can't really go wrong with gaming on both of these phones. Now you are running Android 10 and you're running Android 11 on the S10, but just to get into the toggles here, on the G8X, you obviously have your dual screen case toggle, your DTS surround sound, your hi-fi quad DAC, so you do have that option as well. Screen recording is on here, and screen sharing is on the G8X. The S10 ease additional features. You do have Samsung desktop support, the secure folders, Dolby Atmos, and then both these phones have NFC. And you also have wireless power sharing on the S10, which is a pretty cool feature. So if I can charge up any device with the S10. Hold on, I think I turned it off. So you can see I put it on here, it starts charging up the G8X here. So that's a pretty cool feature to have here. So it just depends on what what kind of additional features you like in both phones here. As far as getting into the phone, you do technically have more options on the S10. So you do not have the option for face unlock on the G8X. You do have the fingerprint scanner on the S10, which to me seems slightly faster than on the G8X. And also on the S10 you do have the option to do face unlock. On the G8X you only have the in-display fingerprint sensor, which works. There's no issue here. It just I just missed that option for face unlock. I like to have at least two options, because with the mask and stuff like that. So I give it to the S10 as far as biometrics, getting into your device here. Just having that option to unlock with your face is definitely a plus. Both phones have stereo speakers. Let's go ahead and check them out. Max volume. So the S10 is actually much louder than the G8X speakers, just a much louder and fuller sound. So definitely would give speaker quality to the S10. Now where the G8X beats the S10 in terms of the audio experience is with that quad deck. If you plug your headphones in, you have a good pair, you will get excellent audio quality out of the G8X. So that is also something to consider as well. Let's talk about the cameras here. So on the G8X, you do have a dual camera setup compared to the S10's triple camera setup. So starting with the G8X, it's a 12 megapixel standard and a 13 megapixel ultra wide. You also have 4K video on the front and back, and a 32 megapixel selfie cam on the G8X. The G8X, you get very good photos, very natural colors. You also get very good dynamic range on here. The ultra wide is pretty close to the main lens, and overall it's a pretty enjoyable experience taking photos on this phone here. I think for the $200 price point, I have zero complaints. Taking video is also pretty solid on here. But on the S10, you do have that slight edge with the telephoto lens. So the S10 has a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel telephoto, 16 megapixel ultra wide with 4K video on the front and back. And you also have a 10 megapixel selfie cam on the S10, and the S10 also is in the same league here. It takes great photos as well, very good. Colors can kind of be a little oversaturated, but it's pretty much the Samsung classic image processing here. Good detail, good ultra wide, and like I said, having that telephoto is nice on the S10 as well. As you can see from the photos, just overall get very good shots. So whichever phone you choose to go with, you're going to get a pretty good camera for both. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the battery situation on both of these phones. So with the G8X, you have a 4,000 milliamp battery on here, and it lasts pretty much all day. So I do not have any issues with the G8X battery life. Now, if you apply the dual screen case, you might not get that, but you do have 21 watt charging and wireless charging, so it charges faster than the S10 as well. Now, the S10 has a slightly smaller battery in it, so it does have a 3,400 milliamp battery with 15 watt charging, wireless charging, but it does have that reverse wireless charging, which is nice. But you will get better battery life on the G8X for sure here. So for the battery situation, I would definitely give it to the G8X just as a standalone battery here. So that pretty much it. That pretty much wraps this one up, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.